In this video, I'm going to share it to you how I compute my solar system setup. I made this so that I can easily compute my system. Like for example, I have here device list, wattage, and also for the connection of the battery parallel mode, and battery series mode. Also for the panel, I have here solar panel parallel mode and solar panel series mode. We also have clock. We are going to use this clock. And of course, we have standard computation for our total hours and also for our battery life calculation. Now, first thing, you have to get your device list that you're planning to use in your solar system. I am going to give you an example for the ref and for the aircon. Like for example, if your ref, the wattage of your ref is 300 watts and the wattage of your aircon is 700 watts, what are you going to do is just to add this wattage. 300 plus 700 equals 1000 watts. So you already get the overall total power for the two devices that you are going to use. Like for example, aircon ref is 300 watts and for the aircon is 700 watts. If you want or if you wish to add, like for example, you have charger for your cell phone, the wattage is 10 watts, and then you get the overall total power now 1010. Okay, so but let us focus only on the ref and aircon. I will just remove this first, the usage hours. Now, if you already get the overall total power of your devices in your house that you are going to use, and then the next step, you have to get the usage hours. How many hours are you going to use these devices? In our computation, I have here standard computation. Like for example, in one day, how many hours we have in one day? We have 24 hours, and of course we have sleep time, and usually we sleep 8 hours, so we can get now total hours 16 hours. So meaning these devices that we're planning to use is we have to use it in 16 hours because of our sleep time of 8 hours. So the next thing that I will do, I will put our usage hours 16 hours, and this 16 hours you have to multiply it to 1000, which is our overall total power times usage hours, and the total of our power consumption a day is 16,000 watts. This is our power consumption a day in usage hours of 16 for our devices ref and con. And then the next thing to do, we have to get the battery. What battery can we use for our power consumption a day? Okay, so and our battery, we have here parallel mode and series mode. For the series mode, the only thing changed is the volts in series mode. But in parallel mode, the battery voltage is the same. However, the total ampere is adding. Unlike for the battery series mode, the battery voltage is adding while the ampere is still the same because the battery voltage is adding. So how many batteries that we can use for our power consumption a day, which is 16,000 in 16 hours usage hours. Okay, one battery. Let us use 12 volts battery. And in this computation, I am going to use 250 AH battery. Now in one battery with 12 volts and AH 250, we get 3000 watts for one battery. So remember, we are going to base what is the power consumption a day for the battery. So we must hit this 16,000, or we have to hit half of this our power consumption a day because of our battery rules. Battery rule says battery capacity at least 50% above for the total power consumption a day. So the 50% of our power consumption a day is already here 8,000 watts. Now, based on our battery rules, we have to get this half of the power consumption a day, which is 8,000. Now, in our one battery, we only get 3,000. So this is not enough based on the battery rules. So I'm just gonna add another one battery. I'll make it 2. For the 2 batteries, still cannot we get the half power consumption of our total a day. So I'm going to add another one battery. I'll make it 3. Okay, so in our battery, 3 batteries, we get 9,000 watts. So meaning based on the battery rules, our battery is okay to use because we already reached the half of our power consumption a day, which is 8,000, while our battery is 9,000. If you wish to get the power consumption, like for example, this is 16,000 watts. If you wish to use this without worrying, you can add the battery. In our battery, we have balance 7,000 to reach the 16,000 watts. So if you wish to add and make it 16,000, just add the battery, make it 4. Now, in 4 batteries, we get 12,000 watts. And still we have balance, no? Battery balance 4,000. So let's add it one more. I will make it 5 batteries. For the 5 batteries, we get 15,000. So we still have 1,000 balance for our battery against in our power consumption a day. So I'm just gonna add one battery. I'll make it 6 batteries now. No, in 6 batteries, we get total watts of 18,000, which is good because we reached the 16,000 and we don't have any battery balance now, and we have over 2,000 wattage in our battery, and that is good to our batteries. So our battery is sufficient to supply the power consumption a day. But the battery is the price is high. So if you are planning to just follow the battery rules, this one is okay. So I will make it four batteries only. If you wish, you have to make it 6. That is the equivalent of if you are using continuously 16 hours without worrying. At least we get the half of the our power consumption, which is 8,000 watts. And for the 4 batteries, we get 12,000 watts against to our battery rules, which is 8,000, half of the 60,000 watts power consumption a day. Meaning our battery is okay to work. Next thing to do, how many panels are we going to use? For the panels, you have to based on our power consumption a day. In this setup, I'm going to use 500 watts panel or 590 watts dual glass. 590 watts, and the volts is like for example, I have panel volts is 42 and the ampere is 13. Okay, one panel 590 watts. And for the panel, we have so many factors now, like for the sun window hours and for the weather, cloudy, something like that. Now, for the factor, overall factor, I will list this total of 20% because for the one panel with rated watts 590 watts, we cannot get the full 590 watts because of some factor. So I will just apply this list factor 20% on this panel. List factor 20% equals the total watts list factor for our one panel is now 472. And of course, we have to get the sun window hours. I will just remove this first. So in one panel, this factor 20%, we get 472 total watts. Now, next step is to get the sun window hours. Like for example, in your area, what is the time that sunrise and sunset? So in my computation, I always put 8 hours and 6 hours. 6 hours is the lowest. But anyway, I will just give you an example. Like for example, our sunrise in 8 o'clock in the morning and our sunset is 4 p.m. How many times our sun window hours? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hours. Okay. It depends in your area. But at this time, I will just put 6 hours sun window hours. So in one panel, rated watts 590 watts, this factor 20%, we get only solar panel generation charge a day, 2,832 in 6 hours. So remember what I said, our target is 16,000 watts because this is our power consumption a day. So we must have the same or at least above power consumption a day. So one panel is not enough. We have to add another one panel. I will make it 2. In 2 panels, we get our solar generation charge a day, 5,664. So it's still not enough. I will make it 3. Still not enough. I'll make it 4. 11,328 for our 4 panels with rated watts 590. So still, we are not getting the same wattage on this for our power consumption a day. So I'm just gonna add one more. I'll make it 5. Now we get 4,160. Still we need more. I'll make it 6. So in the 6th panel, we reach the total watts 16,000 in our power consumption a day, which is 16,992. If you wish to add, you can make it 7 panels. Always remember that the solar panel generation charge a day must be higher against the power consumption. And also the battery, we have wattage of the battery, 12,000 watts against in our battery rolls, which is 8,000. And if you wish, I will repeat it again, if you wish to get the power consumption watts, you have to add the battery. This one is okay if you're planning 6 batteries, and we already hit the above total against to our power consumption a day, which is our battery capacity is 18,000 watts. And also, we get the generation charge in our 7 panels, which is 19,824, which is good because solar panel is sufficient to charge the battery capacity, which is 18,000, and our battery can supply the load sufficiently, which is 16,000. Hope you get my point here because I'm trying hard to deliver it in English. So let's go here in our battery life calculation. And of course, for this setup, you have to choose the series mode. And in series mode, we have 6 batteries, which is the rated volts is 12 volts with the amperage 250, and we get the total volts in series 72 volts, and the ampere is the same 250. Unlike for the parallel mode, 6 batteries with 12 volts and ampere is 250. The battery volts in parallel is the same, while the ampere is adding 1500. Unlike for the series mode, the ampere is 250 but the volts is adding 72 volts. The same on the panel. If you wish your panel, the connection is parallel mode. In parallel mode, the volts is the same, 42, while in series mode, the volts is adding total now 294 volts, while the ampere is the same. And for the parallel mode, the ampere is adding. Okay, so let's go here in our battery life calculation. If you wish to use the series mode, we have 6 batteries, 12 volts. Total volts in series is 72. I'll just put here volts 72. And our battery capacity in series is 250. And our load nominal power, like for example, we have here overall total power for our ref and aircon. Every devices have a nominal power, like for example, the ref, you can get 200 watts, or in the aircon, you can get, like for example, 500 watts. And remember, for the aircon and ref, there is some point that the motor is not continuously running because there is setting each of it. Like for example, if you set the ref temperature, once the temperature hits, the motor stops also in the aircon, so it's not usually running all the time. Okay, so I will just put here 1000 the nominal power for overall. I will just make it 800 watts. In 800 watts nominal power against our load, we get working hours for our battery volts, which is 72. Working hours is 16. So we get the tally of our usage hours here, 16 hours and 16. It's the same. Okay, so let's go over here in our equipment. So what inverter are we going to use? Okay, what inverter are we going to use? Of course, I will recommend inverter, hybrid inverter. Choosing the inverter, we have to depend on our overall total power. Like for example, we have here overall total power 1000 watts. So what kind of inverter, how many wattage that we are going to use? Okay, for the hybrid inverter, like what I said, we have to depend what is the overall total power in our houses. In this setup, we use 300 for the ref and aircon 700 watts. And we get the overall total power 1000 watts. So our inverter that we are going to use is at least 2500 watts or 3000. So for this setup, I am going to use 3000 watts. 3000 watts. And for the battery, so the battery, we use 6 pieces battery. 6 pieces battery if you have budget. If you don't have budget, you can use 4 batteries here. 4 batteries, no problem, because we already reached the 8000, half of the total power consumption, which is 12,000 against the battery rolls. Okay, let's go back here. I will make it 6 batteries, 12 volts, 250 AH. And for the solar charge controller, if you wish to use solar charge controller, you have to get the charge current of the battery. Okay, the charge current of the battery is already here. Charge current in parallel is 375. And for the series, charge current is 62 for series here. Parallel 375 charge current, series 62. I will choose solar charge controller with 60 charge current. To get the charge current, like for example here, we have current in parallel 1500. Okay, 1500. We get the charge current now 1500 times 0.25. So that's why we get the 375 charge current. We cannot use high current to charge that 1500 because the battery will damage. And for the series mode, here we have 250 ampere, 250 times 0.25 equals 62.5. So that's why we select 60 ampere for the charge current. Hope it's clear. Let's continue. Now for the PV panel, we use 590 watts. Okay. And for the AC monitor, it's up to you what is the AC monitor that are you going to use. For the breaker, I have already here computation for the breaker to be used. AC breaker to load. Okay, our load is the ampere is 4.5 ampere to our load. But in our houses, sometimes if you are planning to add the devices, like for example, electric fan, lights, TV, and etc. Anyway, I will just choose the our breaker for the 4.5 ampere. Okay, our total ampere for our load is 4.5 ampere. Load ampere is 4.5. So meaning our breaker rated ampere to be used is 5.6 ampere. We can use here 10 ampere. So 10 ampere. I just get the 5.6 ampere because I just multiply it by 1.25 for the breaker rolls not to exceed 80% on its capacity. 4.5 times 1.25 equals to 5.65. 5.65 breaker rated ampere. We can use 10 ampere here. That is the safety computation about breaker. Okay, let's go here for our DC breaker to battery. So like what I said, our battery is in series 250. So I will change this 250 load. So we have to use 312 at least, or you can use 300 ampere here. 300 ampere. And for the DC breaker panel, okay, our panel ampere is we have to use series, no? Series ampere, the same. Like what I said, if the connection is series, the ampere is the same. While in parallel mode, the ampere is adding. In this setup, we have to select the series mode. We have here 13 ampere, and we get the breaker rated ampere to be 16.25. So I will just put here 16 ampere for the panel breaker. And of course, you have to choose this. You have to buy DC surge protection for the lightning, and of course the transfer switch and the breaker box. And for the batteries, if you are using 250 ampere, you can use 4AW, something like that. The size must bigger. Let us recap our computation here. First step that you're going to do is to get the device list wattage. Like ref is 300 watts, aircon 700 watts. And get the overall total power. 300 plus 700 equals to 1000. Next step, get the usage hours. In one day, we have 24 hours, and we have sleep time 8 hours. 24 minus 8 equals 16. Standard usage hours here is 16. 1000 times 16 equals to 16,000 watts. This is our power consumption a day. And for our consumption a day, the half total is 8,000 based on this our battery rolls, which is battery capacity at least 50% above to total power consumption a day. The half of our power consumption a day is 8,000, and the 6 battery we get 18,000 watts. And like what I said, if you have no budget, you can use 4 batteries. At least the total wattage of our battery is okay based on the battery rules. And of course, we use 7 panels in this setup. And for the 7 panels, this 20% factor, we get final total watts this factor 3,304, and our sun window hours is 6 hours, and we get solar panel generation charge a day 19,824, which is sufficient to charge our battery and to supply our power consumption a day. It must be the same or at least above to our power consumption a day, the wattage of our solar panels. and of the total watts of our battery. In this setup, guys, honestly, you can use it 24/7 because you have enough battery capacity to supply the load, and you have enough solar panel generation charge a day to charge the battery. And here, based on our computation here in the battery life calculation, which is we have 72 volts of battery and the capacity is 250. Our load nominal power is 800 watts, and then we get the working hour 16.2 hours for the battery volts of 72, which is 6 batteries. And our usage hours is 16. We have tally here. Hope you learned something about this video, and if you are new to my channel, thank you for watching and thank you for visiting my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to click the notification bell icon so that you will get updated on our next video. Thank you guys for watching and God bless.